Men are not falling out of love. They're disappearing from it, walking away without a sound, without a fight, and no one's asking why. It's not drama. It's not revenge. It's quiet surrender, the kind that comes after years of watching everything sacred turn into strategy, and every gesture gets weighed, measured, and flipped. You can see it in the dating stats. In America, 63% of men under 30 are single, the highest in modern history. But this isn't freedom. It's detachment from something they no longer believe in. For years, love was sold as purpose, as salvation. But now men are staring at a new kind of reality. A market where sincerity is weakness, vulnerability is leverage, and emotion is just a currency, traded by those who know how to exploit it best. And slowly something broke inside them. Not all at once, but in layers. One day he stopped texting first, then he stopped trying. Then one day he stopped hoping, and the world told him he was bitter or insecure, but they never stopped to ask what made him retreat. Philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once said, "Life can only be understood backward, but it must be lived forward." You can see the numbers, but can't you feel the silence they represent? In 2023, Pew Research reported that over 60% of young men in the US are single, while only 34% of women are. What does that mean? It means women are still dating, just not dating men like before. The modern dating market has become a pyramid, and most men aren't even on the first level. The top 10 to 20% of men are drowning in attention. The rest are invisible. And no one teaches young men what it does to the soul, to be unseen, not for what you lack, but for what you are. To be passed over not by accident, but by design. Apps now filter your face, your job, your status, before a single word is even spoken. Love has become a resume. Compatibility reduced to an algorithm. And men who were once told to be good, kind, dependable, are realizing none of that means anything if you don't also look like a fantasy or act like a product. Here's where Kierkegaard hits harder than any psychologist ever could. He said, "The greatest danger, that of losing one's self, may pass off quietly as if it were nothing." And that's exactly what's happening. Men are slowly losing themselves in a world where dating feels more like auditioning, performing for approval they never even asked for. They're not retreating out of weakness. They're retreating because their honesty is punished. Their intentions are misread, and their efforts are wasted. Think about it. If every vulnerable moment you give is flipped and used against you, if every time you speak your heart, it's seen as manipulation, desperation, or weakness, eventually you stop opening the door altogether. It's a silent kind of death, not of the body, but of belief. A slow corrosion of something sacred, the idea that love is built, not bought. And here's the dark irony. The more a man pulls away, the more he's blamed. The narrative shifts from "he's hurt" to "he's toxic," from "he's tired" to "he hates women." No one stops to ask, what happens when a generation of men finally believes that love is a lie? Not in theory, but in how it's actually lived. This isn't about rejection. It's about disillusionment. It's about realizing the game is rigged and you were never supposed to win. Just keep playing, keep spending, keep chasing, until you break. And many have. So they shut down. They start building alone, not because they stopped wanting connection, but because they've started wanting peace more. And for the first time, that peace is beginning to feel worth the cost. They once chased love. Now, they chase silence, solitude, structure. Not as an escape, but as a replacement. Because when love feels like chaos, a man builds order. When affection is withheld, he pours that energy into his craft, his body, his mission. Not always consciously, but deeply, instinctively. It's a shift that's happening across the world, and no one is talking about it. Men aren't becoming cold. They're becoming calculated. They are tired of giving the deepest parts of themselves to someone who doesn't understand the weight of what's being given, so they give it to something else. Something that gives back. A business, a discipline, a vision. Kierkegaard called it the leap, the moment you abandon what the world says you should want and throw yourself into something higher. Not because it's certain, but because it's real. He wrote, "To dare is to lose one's footing momentarily. Not to dare is to lose oneself." And this is what modern men are starting to understand, not in words, but in their bones. They're not running away from intimacy, they're running toward meaning. A meaning that doesn't disappear when you stop texting, a purpose that doesn't punish you for being imperfect. Here's the paradox. The less validation a man gets from women, the more he seeks validation from within. And in that loneliness, he starts becoming dangerous. Not violent, not bitter, but powerful in a way that doesn't beg to be seen. He learns to suffer in silence. He trains when no one is watching. He builds value when no one claps. And one day, he no longer needs the applause. This is the man society fears, the one who no longer plays their game, not the flashy rebel, but the quiet force who makes peace look like defiance. But here's the warning. This path is not safe. It's not free of pain. It's lonely. It's hard. It demands everything. That's why it's called a leap of faith. You're not choosing it because it guarantees success. You're choosing it because you're done being a slave to outcomes. Done chasing people who see you as replaceable. Done tying your worth to someone else's mood. Done watering dead things and calling it love. And in that leap, a man is reborn. He may not be understood, but he is no longer broken. A strange thing happens when a man stops chasing. He starts building. He stops asking to be seen and begins working in the shadows. At first, it looks like isolation, but slowly, silently, it becomes something else. Discipline, focus, clarity. He's no longer reacting, he's creating, not for applause, but because something in him refuses to stay small. These men are disappearing from the places society expects them to be. They're not posting thirst traps, not performing vulnerability for attention, not playing the algorithm game of dating and social validation. Instead, they're waking up early. They're reading, lifting, building. They're crafting lives that make sense without permission or praise. And that terrifies people. Because, for decades, society trained men to find identity in what others give them. Approval, sex, status. But this new man, he doesn't need any of it to feel real. He's found something more dangerous than rebellion, self-sufficiency. He doesn't complain. He doesn't attack. He simply exits the matrix and builds his own system. And the moment he stops chasing women who don't respect him, the moment he stops explaining himself to people who'll never understand, the moment he lets go of needing to be liked, that's the moment he becomes unstoppable. But this man isn't cold. He still loves. He still feels. He's just no longer enslaved by it. Because he's learned a brutal but liberating truth. Not everything that looks like connection is love. Not everything that gives you attention values your essence. So he sets new terms. No more begging. No more pleasing. No more shrinking just to fit someone else's frame. He doesn't need to dominate. He just refuses to be dominated by lies, by a system that profits from his confusion. That's why he's feared. Not for what he says, but for what he represents. A man who is enough on his own. And if you're still listening, chances are you feel this shift too. You're not here by accident. You're here because something in this resonates, because part of you is already walking that quiet, powerful path. So, if this voice speaks to you, not as a performance, but as a mirror, subscribe, not for the dopamine hit, not for the trend, but because this space right here is for men like you, men who are done performing, men who want peace more than praise, men who are becoming dangerous in the best way possible. And this is just the beginning. There's a moment in a man's journey that no one talks about. Not the books, not the podcasts, not the influencers, because most don't make it this far. It's not the moment he finds success, not when he builds wealth or earns respect. It's when he realizes he doesn't need any of it. He's worked, he's struggled, he's let go of validation, abandoned false hope, buried dead versions of himself. And in the quiet that follows, he finds something else. Not joy, not euphoria, but wholeness. He no longer builds to impress, he builds because it's who he is. There's no audience in mind, no applause expected, just him and the work. This is the final shift. When love no longer defines him, when rejection no longer breaks him, when society no longer manipulates him through shame or desire, he becomes sovereign. That word used to sound dramatic, even arrogant, but now it just means one thing. He is no longer controlled, not by lust, not by fear, not even by hope, because he understands hope without action is a sedative, love without truth is a trap, and life without purpose is a performance. This man doesn't hate women, he just refuses to be defined by them. He doesn't seek approval from broken systems, he outgrows them, and in doing so, he becomes a mirror, one that unsettles everyone still living in illusions. People ask why he's so calm, why he's so unbothered, why he walks away from drama instead of fighting it. It's simple. He's not avoiding life, he's choosing peace over performance. And once a man has tasted peace, no thrill can tempt him. He's already won, not by conquering the world, but by conquering himself. And that's what they fear the most. Not the loud, angry man shouting into the void, but the quiet one who figured it out and doesn't need to prove it. That's the revolution no one sees coming. If you've made it to this point, you're already different. You already feel it. This wasn't just a video. This was a mirror. And the man staring back at you, he's waking up. Now the only question left is what will you do with him?